Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Tracy Show. Of course, I'm Tracy, but you know that because you've been watching every week. Before I let my guest introduce herself, I have a series of announcements, and I did not put this in the comment section, but I will on Sunday when I do my Sunday show. So mark your calendars. All the independent candidates running for office, I am having hopefully it'll go viral, but I'm having a live StreamYard discussion on third parties. And I'm calling it the third party. My hope is to gather libertarians, Greens, Constitutional Party, all the third parties, and discuss things such as the upcoming 2028 election, um, whether we should combine our efforts or not combine our efforts. So it's going to be just an idea of discussion. So I will be sending out invitations to that event probably this coming Saturday since it's in November, but just mark your calendars for November the 7th. And here come the rest of the announcements. Hit that subscribe button. We are still at 432, which means we need 68 subscribers to hit that magical number of 500. Please, 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 if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, you can hit that, destroy that, obliterate that subscribe button. Support me on Patreon. Um, this work is not cheap. I have StreamYard now to pay for because it can do things that I couldn't do before. I want to expand and get another desktop computer so I can share screens better. That costs money. So my Patreon is only $2 a month. That's less than 10 cents a day. So consider supporting. You can also support my GoFundMe campaign, which I am doing to take care of some personal expenses. I have put this up here because this is unusual, but I now have a Twitch channel. Now, you can't watch this podcast on Twitch because I did it before I picked back up StreamYard, but all the future ones, you'll be able to see me on Twitch. And I am going to bring up the candidate's website here and when we start speaking. So, ma'am, you may go ahead and introduce yourself. Or do you not want me to call you ma'am? Because I don't like people call me ma'am.
Well, I mean, I get why it's offensive to women of our age, but we are ma'am, and it's a respectful thing to say, so I'm okay with it. My name is
Okay.
Jamie Frost Remmey. I am the Libertarian candidate for Pennsylvania's 1st Congressional District. We are just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with a district over 500,000 people. I chose to run for office because I'm tired of the money that is being infused into campaigns that ends up being legislation that is not beneficial to the people who live in the districts that they represent. So I'm tired of seeing lots of money being funneled to candidates so that they will vote in legislation that benefits not just large corporations, but maybe foreign interests. So I thought, I didn't actually ever want to be a politician. That was never a dream of mine. But the only way that we can make changes in government is when we send real people to office. And the fact is, just because I'm running for office doesn't mean I want to be a politician. I want to be absolute opposite of what every politician you've seen out there. I want to challenge the norms that are in Congress. I want to stand up to the special interests, to corporations, to lobbies, and to foreign interests and say, no, the American people have had enough. So I figured, since I'm not super thrilled with what's happening right now, and I'm not influenced by power and I'm not influenced by money, that I might be a good candidate. And so I figured, why not throw my hat in the ring? I've never run for office before, and I figured I might take a big swing with Congress.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this question. It's going to sound silly. You went through all that, but I have this tendency when someone's running for local House of Representatives, I always try to make them run for congressional. But you're actually running for United States Congress.
I am.
Good. Okay, so we're clear. So everybody that's been saying Tracy, no. Now I will be correct when I'm talking about Congress. So, um, again, we're going to go to your website here in just a moment. But we got some people that have checked in, so I want to get to this comment first. Kalia is in the house. She was just my guest on Sunday.
What's up, girl?
No. Quick question. Would you consider DSA as a third party or no, they're an extension of the
No, I want to talk about that. I 100% want to address that. The DSA is doing exactly what I refuse to do. I refuse to run as a Democrat or a Republican and try and take over another party because I have principles. I am not a Democrat and I am not a Republican. And the socialists are not Democrats. They're just playing Democrat to try and take over that party because they are dealing with what I'm dealing with, the impossible efforts of getting third-party candidates on the ballot. So they're a bunch of cheaters trying to get in disguised as Democrats. So kudos to you for bringing up that question because you're 100% right. They are not Democrats. They're socialists disguised as Democrats.
Well, and she told you now. But yeah, I want to answer her question because I'm like, no, they're not. But
ask me anything, girl. I am up for it all.
Now you made me forget my question. Okay, so I do notice on your website, let me put your website up here. Let me put it up here. Make sure I got it. That is the website that you all can visit. I will be referring to it. I'll leave it up there for a little bit so you all can get a pencil and piece of paper. It's not in the description section because, again, when I scheduled this interview, I forgot to ask for the candidate's website. See, that's my fault. So I'm going to leave it up here just a little bit longer just so you all can take it down. But I want to talk about your election. So it's November the 3rd, 2026, like all the elections for Congress. Are you on the ballot?
I am not. And I'm glad that you asked that because I would love the opportunity to talk to you all about ballot access laws because they are grossly unfair to independents and third-party candidates. In Pennsylvania, which is one of the most difficult states to gain ballot access for any third party or independent candidate, I'm going to just break this down based on my district alone, okay? 1/5 of every voter in my district is either a third party or an independent candidate. They do not get to participate in the primary process. However, they still are required to pay taxes that will pay for the primary process. That is the definition of taxation without representation. My threshold to get on the ballot actually exceeded the number of signatures than our governor candidate, Ken Krawchuk, that I know you had on your podcast a few weeks back. I actually had to collect more signatures than him, but he is representing more people than I am. How does that work? I don't know. I was expected to collect 5,228. I don't know the exact number. It was 2% of the largest vote total of the winner from the previous election. And now let me break this down to you why that's crazy. Because the last election was a presidential election. We generally get more voters that come out in presidential elections, right? So in order for me to get on the ballot in a municipal election year, I actually have a higher threshold to get on the ballot than I will in 28 because I'm running in 28. We've already talked about this. I will be also in my off season working on challenging ballot access laws. And hopefully I'll get enough write-in votes to scare the two-party system in the meantime.
Do not get me started on voter access. It is one of the most cheap, disgusting, discriminatory, every word, vile, disgusting, abhorrent. I'm just trying. The fact that both parties, which I call the uniparty, because to me, I still don't see a difference. I'm
We
like,
call
please
it the
don't even.
duopoly, but the uniparty works as well.
They did the same thing. Um, the the Democrats who are supposed to be left, they're not. They really aren't, because I'm a leftist and they're so far away from me. I'm like, no. But they actually spent 20 mil, because I worked the Cornell West for President campaign, so I went out to collect signatures. They spent $20 million in court to keep his name off the ballot. And Pennsylvania was one of the states where he actually got enough signatures. He got well over the amount of signatures. They threw him out. They had to take to court. And gee, guess when they decided that he was right? After the election.
You know
How
what?
convenient.
Let me tell you, Tracy, I have a young man. He is an amazing candidate. His name is Chris Gambino. He is not a libertarian. He is running for state house here in Pennsylvania as an independent. I just watched a video that he posted because we have a lot of nefarious things happening when it comes to ballot access. This poor man literally had somebody in his district sign his petition incorrectly twice, and then actually was one of the people who challenged his ballot access. How is that legal?
It happens all the time.
It's disgusting. And the only way we can fight this is if third parties and independents get together and fight it. And we need people in both the Republican and Democratic parties to join us in saying that it is an unfair practice. I'm going to start a movement here in Pennsylvania. I honestly believe that if you want to keep the ballot access laws the way they are, that's fine. But we need to address the taxation without representation issue. And I think that we say either change the ballot access laws, or I propose that Pennsylvania residents who are registered third party or independents receive a refund in their taxes every election cycle, because they should not have to foot the bill for the dog and pony show that is the primary process of the Democrats and Republicans. My party does not cost the taxpayers any dollars in my candidacy. We nominated me as a candidate by me going to my constituents and asking for a nomination. Ken, as the governor, he came to the state of Pennsylvania's Libertarian Party and asked for our nomination at our convention. That cost nothing to the taxpayers. That only cost the libertarians who actually participate in the democratic process, that cost us money. So why is it that my taxpayer dollars should foot the efforts of the Democrats and Republicans if I'm also paying to have my candidates on the ballot and they're still questioned? It makes no sense, and it's grossly unfair.
I agree with 99.9999% of what you said. There's only
Let me hear the point 0.0001. Let's hear it, girl, because I don't think you got a good argument.
No, I don't. Everything else you said, but here's what I believe. If you run as a candidate, you should just be on the ballot. Stop making people
I don't disagree with that.
Collect signatures. Stop all of this. And if you're going to make ballot access, okay, fine. Have on that election board a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, a Green. Don't just have two parties sitting there like, oh, okay, we're going to throw this away because they didn't cross their T. Is that an I or is that an L? No. So I wholeheartedly believe You declare your
Tracy,
candidacy, you're on
I'm
the
going
ballot.
to give you this
Period.
guy's name, and you should talk to him, because, man, let me tell you, it was appalling to see the story that he's facing. But I give you so much credit for going out there and volunteering to collect signatures for candidates, because people don't recognize how incredibly difficult that is. I unfortunately, with the economy the way it is right now, I had very little volunteers with my campaign this year. And so most of the people who helped the party were working extra hours or extra jobs. And let me tell you, both of the people I'm running against are running full time. They don't need a job because they have millions of dollars in their campaign finances from PACs. I am working two jobs. I am a legal assistant full time, and part time, I work as a group fitness instructor and a personal trainer. And in my off time, I was campaigning and I was collecting signatures. And it is a very difficult process, and the rejection is very overwhelming. And it only, and in order for me to be able to get on the ballot, I did the math. I would have alone had to have collected 50 valid signatures every day. 50. Can you imagine how hard it is to collect 50 signatures every single day as one person? I mean,
Yes,
you
I
did it.
can because I did
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
but yes,
That's why
I
I'm
did.
asking you, girl, because you know, and most of the people
Yeah.
who are watching your show right now don't understand the challenges that we face. And as a candidate, for the state to expect me to be the education for the state constituents, to explain to them what the rules are of the state is an insurmountable task. And it's set up intentionally to keep dissenting voices and third parties and independents off the ballot. And I'm a product of that. I did not make the ballot because I did not come up with enough signatures at the end of the day. Now, I have created a plan to do so, but that will require that I build a volunteer army in the next year. Because in 2028, I plan to come in full force, women of fire, and get myself on that ballot. But I have a lot of work to do in the off season to do that.
Right. That you do not have to tell me how difficult. I think that the thing that I found, since we're going to stay on ballot access here for a bit, is the I don't want to call the public uneducated, but I think I'm
Listen,
correct in
it's
saying
okay to. It's okay
no,
to.
but it no, because it's media. The media plays a big part in the miseducation of the public. And the reason I say that is when I was collecting signatures for Dr. West, the only thing I heard was people say, "Oh, well, you can't vote for him because we'll get Trump." Well, first, you don't know how presidential elections work. We use the electoral college, not popular vote. And second, why would Kamala be any better? Nobody. The whole reason was, well, she's not Trump. Well, I know that by looking at her, but where is the policy? There's no policy difference. So educating people, it takes a lot. Anybody that collects signatures, my hat is off to you because I just was like it was so hard to say encourage because people are just some people were just automatically so mean. I'm like, are you kidding? They
Well, you have
don't
to
there's
understand that libertarians inherently want to be left alone. Okay. The goal of the libertarian life, what we want to see as a country, is we want you all to live your life in peace without any government interference. We don't want them taking your money. We want them to leave you alone as long as you are a productive citizen that is not infringing on the rights of other people. Peaceful people deserve to be left in peace, right? And unfortunately, when it comes to actioning a bunch of people who want to be left alone, that's really hard. So it's
It
really
is.
hard to get people involved who just want to be left alone. So it's very hard to outreach to get people to action who don't want to get involved. But the fact is, we are at a pivotal point in our country right now where we need to get involved. We need to have our voices heard, regardless of I know you keep saying that you're very left, Tracy, but I gotta be
I
honest
am.
with you. I do not think that you have anything that you want for this country that I don't want. I guarantee you that we kind of want the same things, but I
Mhm.
think that we just have a different idea of how to get
How
there.
to get
And
there.
that's
Yeah, I
where
understand.
we need to put aside all of the politics and realize that everyone in this country wants to live peacefully. We want to affordably be able to put a roof over our head. We want to be able to affordably take care of ourselves medically. We want to be able to afford to put meals on our table. We want to be able to have a comfortable retirement. I just think all of us have a different way of looking about how to get there. And most people in the Libertarian Party do not believe that government is the way to do that, because we've watched time and again them take our money, and now our debt's over $40 trillion. So the notion of continuing to fuel a monster that continues to take but not give is where we're trying to get our message out. And so it's important that, we all work together as a team to try and allow all voices to get on the ballot, because fighting the government should be what we're all on board with, because it's the government that's put us where we are. It doesn't matter which side you're on. Both of them have gotten us here. I can tell you one thing though, the Libertarian Party hasn't gotten us there because nobody's ever let us be in charge yet.
I
I mean,
think
you
there
can't
are some
argue with
things,
that, right?
yeah, right. I think with some libertarians that I interview, there's some things I definitely am for. And the number one thing I am for, well, there's a couple, but Medicare for all, absolutely positively. I won't bend, I won't break, I'm not gonna bow to it. And reparations for the descendants of African slaves. To me, if you're not for those two things, it's a no-go. It's
Well,
for me.
my answer to that is it voluntary?
No, it's mandatory because the government owes us a debt. The
Well, why?
government
Wait, hold
owes
on, hold
black
on.
people a check.
Anything done that is anything that's done of force is not worth doing. You should not be forcing people to take the fruits of their labor and do something that they don't want to do. Anything that's voluntary will come naturally with a free market. I think I listened to you talk to Ken. And I think that you have wonderful ideas, Tracy. I don't think that you have anything but good intent. I think you want to see everybody happy and fruitful. I do,
Right.
however, worry that when you force people to pay into a system, you are doing that in a governmental sense. Now, think about it this way. So the government makes us do these things, right? Because if we don't do them, they will come to your door with a gun and make you do it, right? I mean, we
Right.
can
I
agree
agree
on
with
that.
that.
Well, think about when we used to do voluntary transactions with one another. How did people survive then? They survived by their communities, by their churches and their faith. Government has made us feel as though we cannot trust our neighbors anymore. They have removed the community aspect, and they have removed our faith-based communities from helping one another. And so people are only relying on the charity of government, which is forced charity. They are not, they are then taking our ability to trust our neighbors away from us. I believe, Tracy, that you and your community are better capable of taking care of the people who live there than the government is. I believe the people of my community here in the 1st District of Pennsylvania are better capable of taking care of each other than our government is, because they're not doing a very good job of it right now, because they have interfered in our ability to be able to do that. Haven't you seen when communities stand up and try and feed the homeless outside of government? They send police in to pour bleach on the food because it hasn't been approved by the government. That's when communities come together and they show strength against the government, that the government shuts us down. And that's where our problems diverge, okay? I believe that you and your community are better equipped to help your community than the government is.
Here's what I'll say, and we can move on, but here's what I will say. Reparations to me is not just for paying for the crimes of slavery. Reparations is the school to prison pipeline that the government has established. Reparations is the redlining that the government has enacted.
What? The last thing you just said?
Reparations is about
I heard you say the school to prison pipeline, and I agree with that 100%.
Yes,
the schools are prisons, and they send kids to prison because they don't teach them how to be good people.
Right.
Which goes back to the conversation you had with Ken about why privatization of education is probably a really good idea.
But I'm talking about what has been set up. And I think that's where I differ.
Well, we need to change what's been set up to benefit the people moving forward, because what's been set up has only put children in prison, and the school systems are failing our students. I think that you are right. It is a pipeline to putting children in prison, because it continues to put people in a government-run program that keeps slavery consistent. We are always going to be a slave to the system if we continue to allow it to propagate. We have to stop putting money into the government that's enslaving us to a taxation system.
I understand, but here's my other point, though. This country has benefited off of the labor of Black people.
It's benefited off the labor of all people.
I understand, but I'm Black, so I can only talk about from my Black
perspective. You can talk about all Americans, because you are an American, aren't you?
I absolutely
you are. You should not be defined by the color of your skin, my dear. And if you define yourself by that, then you are limiting yourself to only that. You are an American citizen first and foremost. And yet you are a Black woman whose ancestors may have helped build this country, but there are several other people who have helped build this country. And we have all been taken advantage of by our government.
I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying what you're saying isn't true, but what I'm getting at is this, and this is where I will disagree with libertarians. This is why I can't fully buy into it, because when I hear that, I'm like, well, we not only unforced labor, not only the government dropping bombs in neighborhoods, not only Tulsa, not only everything we name, but to me, it's a debt owed. We paid the Japanese Americans, rightfully so. We were wrong in putting them in internment camps. That was the wrong thing to do. And Ronald Reagan
we didn't give reparation to Japanese in internment camps.
Actually, it was 1984. I want to say 84. Ronald Reagan signed it. You get somebody out there check me, but I'm almost certain that Ronald Reagan. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like a fact check on that. But I'd also, I think that reparations would be fair as long as they were being paid by the ancestors of the people who actually owned slaves. And only 1% of the American population at that time actually were slave owners. Just if you'd like to fact check that. but I'm pretty certain that my numbers are pretty
right. But and that's
you're going to
again,
add you
that's
so you want to tell me that although my family's been here for hundreds of years, my family's actually been here since the 1600s and didn't own slaves, but you
oh
think
my.
that I should have to pay reparations,
I
although my
well,
family was not slave owners and actually died in the Civil War fighting to end slavery, but I should be forced to pay reparations? I just want
here's
to
what I'll
clarify that.
here's what I'll say. First, I'm a big MMTer. I don't believe I believe the government creates currency. That's something I just absolutely believe. So
But
for
you believe,
me,
wait, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I believe in modern monetary theory, which is a theory which has been proven by several economists that says that the government creates currency. This is what I believe. So when you're saying you pay it, you're not paying it. It's the government that creates the currency
Who
to pay it.
No, if you're telling me that you want the government to create currency, what you're asking them to do is print money, which then devalues our money. Uh, Money is based on trade. Okay, so Tracy, if I had a product or a service and I wanted to trade that with you, the worth of that would be dependent on myself and you. Okay, you and I would determine what my service is worth. So I'm a fitness instructor. So let's use that as an example. Okay. Do you have a job outside of this, Tracy? What do you do for a living?
I am a customer service rep.
Okay, so let's say that as a fitness instructor, I wanted to offer you a session of fitness in exchange for a certain amount of money, right? So I want to say that I want to give you a private session and you want to learn how to, you want to work out. And I tell you that I charge $75 an hour. What would you say about that? Would you think that that was fair?
Well, that depends. One,
Exactly. That depends on what you value that
value it
session at,
is.
correct?
Yeah,
That is what the exchange of currency is. We don't create money out of nowhere. The government does not create money. We determine what the value of a product is based on exchange rate between the two of us. I would love, have you ever read What Has Government Done to Our Money by Murray Rothbard? Because I think that that would be a wonderful book for you to read. It's a really, really easy, quick read, but it gives you an idea that like we've lost the notion of what money actually is. It's a transfer of goods and services based on the individual's perception of value. Nobody can, I know we can walk into a grocery store and I can look at a loaf of bread and I can look at the store loaf of bread and see that that's $2. But I also understand how important it is not to eat something with that kind of crap in it. And I personally take my health at a higher cost than $2. So I will buy a loaf of bread from the farmer's market that's $7 because I find the value of that loaf of bread is more to me because I value my health more. And that is where the notion of money and transfer comes into play. The government has nothing to do with it. It only controls it and makes you think that it has something to do with it. Money and exchange of goods and services has nothing to do with the government. They only get in the way to make it worse. Do you know what I mean?
I see what you're
What I'm
saying.
saying?
So what we'll do is obviously we got to get to other stuff because I didn't think we stay on this long. But
Well,
I
that's good because we're having a good like fourth
right,
conversation.
right. But here and like I said, those things I will stand on, and that's what makes me kind of like hesitant. But I definitely believe everybody should have ballot access. I definitely believe, like when libertarians talk about stop funding the war, 100% agree. We
Yes.
we we have no business having 800 plus military bases
No,
around the
not
world
at all.
in
I agree.
in countries we aren't even at war with. our country has no business overthrowing the
Preach,
elected
girl.
officials of other countries. I will definitely agree with libertarians. So I don't want it to come across as like, no, I don't want to do that. But what I'm getting at is this. There are some things I at my core, like I said, I'm not gonna bend, I'm not gonna break, I'm not gonna
Tracy, you seem
this
like a
I
very
will
smart woman. And when you say that you're not going to bend or break, that says to me that you don't have a willingness to learn or understand other ideas. And I think that you're smarter than that. I think that you have the ability to absorb the ideas that I'm telling you, take them in and put them up against the ideas that you feel are hardened in your heart. Because I think that you know the things that I'm saying to you make sense. And I think that it's hard for people to look at things that they have strongly held, beliefs they've strongly held for a long time, and question those. And that's understandable. It's very, very hard for people to accept change, first of all, and to accept that they may be wrong because we've spent most of our lives believing certain things because we've been told by our government and we've been told by our media that we need to believe them. But the fact remains that there are a lot of things in the world that have been told to us that are not true. And we need to start having honest conversations with people so that we can open our hearts up to understanding how other people are thinking, and maybe think that maybe at some point we may have been given the wrong information.
I can definitely understand that. And just for a point of act, I had the wrong year. Ronald Reagan signed HR 442 in 1988. I said 84. I want to make sure I correct that.
And what did that provide? Can you read
Uh,
that out for us?
I sure can. So the bill included a formal government apology and payment of $20,000 each to surviving victims and descendants of those Japanese Americans that were deterred.
Now, number one, do you think that that made anybody feel any better about what happened? Do you think
Oh
that
no, no,
no?
no, no, no,
Do
no,
you,
no, no.
and do you think that that only made the American taxpayers a little bit more angry about the fact that their tax dollars were being used to do something to
Well,
penalize them for something they had no part of?
well,
It was
let's put it
not
like
the
this.
American taxpayers that decided to put these Japanese people in internment camps, right? This was not the decision of the American taxpayers. This was a decision made by the American government, and it was a disgusting and appalling decision. And to penalize the American taxpayers for a decision made by the American government, yet talk about continuing to increase the size and scope of the American government, just it doesn't make sense to me, sweetheart. It makes no sense that we would think that we should continue to allow the size and scope of our government to grow when they make awful decisions at the expense of the American taxpayer.
Right. And you like I said, everything you're saying, I've heard from libertarians before. But I will do my due diligence like I always do. But yeah, there's just like things that I've been a Medicare for all activist for at least I almost want to say 15 years.
If you don't think that libertarians want to help the aging community have reasonable access to healthcare, you're wrong. You're
Well, no, I'm just
completely
basing
wrong.
it up.
We just want to make sure that they have access to that appropriately without government intervention. The government is causing all of these spikes in costs. They cause the price of the insurance to go up. They are causing the price of any of the medications to go up. This is not, this has nothing to do with the American people. This has to do with the confines that the system has based on what the government limitations have provided them. And it's because we are legislating too much. We are putting too many laws in place that are keeping the free market from being able to allow affordable health care.
Got it. So here's what I'll say. I'm only basing that off of all the interviews that I've done with libertarians. Obviously, that's not, you got your libertarians, they lean a little left, and you got your centrist libertarians, and you got your core, there's different um opinions. That's the word I'm looking for. But what I think, and that's one of the reasons I started this show, is because I want to hear everybody. Now, I do have biases. I'm not even going to pretend I don't. I have bias. I'm very biased towards being a Black American because I know what this country has did to us. Now, do I think every white person, every Asian person, every Latino person? No, I have enough sense to know, oh, well, that's the government that did that. So I don't want to make you pay for something that they did. I want to make them pay for something that
But there
they
is
did.
no differentiation between them and us. They do not operate outside of our tax dollars. They do not exist without us. And
Right.
we
I'm just telling
need
you
to
what I,
make sure that
right.
they don't exist. Because if we made sure the government was so small that they couldn't cause these atrocities, then wouldn't we make a better world?
Well, and this is my other thing, and we're definitely going to get to your website because I definitely have some questions about it. But my fear, and this is just my fear, is when you make government, and I'm talking about federal government. I'm not talking about state and local government. So I'm not talking about local governments or state government. I'm only talking about federal. There are some things that the federal government should be doing. Number one, Gary, Indiana has been without power for 12 days. There are residents that have not had power in 12 days, and FEMA hasn't responded at all. There should be a federal agency, in my opinion, that responds.
I don't disagree with you at all. These are the important things that the federal government should be doing. And guess what? They're not. They're not doing them. So why are we asking them to do more if they can't even do the smallest thing they are supposed to do?
And I think Nelson has made my point for me because Nelson knows my mind. If you want government not to get involved in people's lives, what will libertarians do once they have the positions in government?
Actually, I love this question. Do you know why? Because the one thing that I want to do if I get into Congress is I want to make sure the federal government is so small that I don't have a job one day because I don't care about power. I care about the American people, and we need to reduce the size and the scope of the federal government and put responsibility back in the hands of states and communities. The federal government is the reason why we're broke.
Yeah, understand. And so, like I said, and I'm about to say this to the audience. We are not, you notice how we're not screaming at each other and we haven't called each other names or we haven't
There's
did
no
any of
need
those
to.
things. Absolutely. But I want to make sure that our audience knows that I definitely try to make it as though I'm listening, make it as though to have people understand where I'm coming from because I come from a different space. I'm if if you consider Bernie Sanders a leftist, I'm to the left of Bernie Sanders. I'm to his left. So for me, I hear libertarian, I'm like, well, huh, what? I get, like I said, the war message, absolutely. I don't no arguments from me. Always
Honestly,
gonna be
I'm
my
not
story.
sure why you haven't addressed the fact that the Libertarian Party has been the biggest supporter of the gay rights movement from the beginning. We
No,
actually support
I'm saying
any
it.
and all ability to live your life however you see fit. We are about individual freedoms. We are about taking
Understand?
responsibility for yourself and keeping the government out of your life because the government shouldn't interfere on how you choose to live your life. It's not the government's decision to make your life choices.
understand. Like I said, I just want to make sure my audience is understanding. I'm not being, because I have been accused of being combative, which I can be at times.
I don't find you
But
to be combative at all, Tracy.
well, thank you. So we're going to get to the website, um, and we're going to go point by point here. And oh, let me put up the website so that you all could see it. That is the website right there to visit to learn more about our candidate. So when I look at your website, and I'm going to leave that up there for a while, you have what I would call a platform. Um, the number one thing you have is freedom starts with the individual. And you state that you are running because you believe every person, well, you just said it, have control over their own body, their own choices, their own future. No one should feel like their life is being managed by distant officials or powerful institutions. Real freedom begins with each of us, and it's time we reclaim it. So, the question I'm going to ask is give us, there's plenty of examples I can think of, but where is an example where that hasn't happened?
What do you mean? That the
Well,
government's
you're saying
infringing on our
like the
individual
government
rights?
visual rights. That's
Every
exactly what I
day,
mean.
they're constantly infringing on our rights. They're infringing on the rights of everyone every single day by taking your taxes. They're legislating us out of freedoms. I mean, even down to the stupidest little thing, like we cannot legislate people's, we can't legislate protecting people from themselves. To me, I think those are the silliest forms of legislation. You can't force people to do things to protect themselves. We should be allowed to make choices to do what it is that we want, and we have to be able to bear the consequences of those decisions. I know that it's a very unpopular opinion, but I believe that the laws on drugs are antiquated, and prohibition on anything only leads to black markets and dangerous drugs. It happened with alcohol. And I think that the drug war has only been costly to poor people in other countries, as well as it's stigmatized people with drug problems from getting help. I think that the war on drugs has been too costly to the American people, and I think that it should be ended because grown people should be able to consume whatever it is that they want to consume in a safe environment. And the only way to do that safely is to allow drugs to be legalized so that they can be consumed safely, because you only get dangerous drugs in a black market situation, just like they got dangerous alcohol during prohibition.
Also, I don't know if you're for this, but I pretty much assume you would be expunging the records of marijuana possession.
First of all, 100%, any non-violent offender should be released from prison immediately. If there is no victim, there is no crime. And let me speak
Exactly.
to this, Tracy. Let me tell you a little bit about this. Libertarians, I don't know if anybody's told you about this, but we are big fans of jury nullification. Are you familiar with jury nullification?
I'm somewhat familiar, but please explain.
Jury nullification allows a jury to find a defendant not guilty of a crime that they do not believe the crime is actually a just crime. So, like, right now, there's a lot of talk about flock cameras and people cutting down these flock cameras. This would play right into that notion of if you were a jury before a case where somebody was committed where they were trying to charge them with a crime of cutting down a flock camera, if you feel as though that crime is that crime is justified and that these charges are unjust, you as a jury could dismiss the entire case. Just like if you as a jury decided that somebody who is being charged with a small amount of marijuana shouldn't have to face the extortion that the court systems are putting them through, you could nullify them.
Yep. I was like, I don't think I have to ask for this one, but just so the audience will know. Okay, so the next thing you list, I am so sorry.
That's quite all right.
Viruses in myself. Respect for what we earn and build. Whether it's your home, your business, your savings, or the things you worked hard to create, what's yours should stay yours. Property rights aren't about wealth, they are about fairness. When someone's rights are violated, the answer should be accountability and restitution, not more red tape. I want a community where people can build, trade, and grow without unnecessary interference. Oh, and you may talk about those. I'm just reading them. So if you want to expand on them.
Well, there's a lot of aspects to that, but like as I said earlier, taxation is theft. So you earn the fruits of your labor. The government should not be allowed to come in and take them. And as I know that you have been a big proponent of this Medicare for all, I'm sure that you want to see the rights of our elderly protected. And some of the biggest crimes against our elderly are civil asset forfeitures, which means that these people who have worked their entire lives to pay their homes off, but now the economy is so bad that they can't afford their taxes, that the government will come in and foreclose on their properties and take homes from the elderly because they can't afford the taxes that continue to rise in their area to fund all of these bloated bureaucratic systems that are being mismanaged, then yes, the fruits of our labor are being robbed from us. And we are and the government is taking advantage of that. I mean, have you seen any elderly who have been subjected to civil asset forfeiture? It's absolutely awful.
I don't know any personally. I do not know any personally. That I will admit, but I have heard of it. Yes, absolutely.
And it is not anything that should be allowed by our communities. We should not be allowing the government to come in and say, you can't afford your taxes, but your home is paid off, so we're going to seize all of your assets. We have hardworking people living in communities that work their entire lives for what they have, and they can't afford their taxes because the government can't manage the budget that they've been giving and continue to raise the taxes.
Understand, yes. I definitely agree with that. Next point you have is the individual matters more than the institution. Every person in our district has their own story, their own values, and their own dreams. You are not a statistic or voting block. You are a human being with rights that do not come from the government. They come from being alive. Your campaign, you state, is about protecting the dignity and independence of each individual, not empowering political machines. That's self-explanatory, but if you want to expand on that,
I
you
don't
can.
think I need to, but I think we all know that we are born inherently with rights as human beings. They are not granted to us by government. They are granted to us by God. And whatever God you believe that you worship to, or if you're not even a believer in God, but you just believe in the universe, we all know that government is not the one that gave us our rights. We are born with them.
Yeah, understand. Again, agree with that. I do want to talk about. I'm going to go away from your website, but it's actually on here. If I, the more I
Sure.
think about it, is I read a statistic somewhere that states that we are spending each day for this silly, what I call this there's no real reason for war, never a good reason for war. This silly interaction that our Epstein avoiding president has on file, because that's what I believe it's for. But we're spending billions every day. What I would what would make me to listen to the libertarians is talk about appropriate, like cutting this and giving it to something else. I probably
No.
be
The thing is, what you're not understanding, Tracy, is we want to cut everything so everyone gets their money back. We don't
Okay, I understand.
want
That's
to
what.
give one thing to another. We want to get rid of everything so you keep what you have. But I do want to address one thing with you because I don't think anybody has. One way that we can stand up to President Trump is defend the guard. Because President Trump will inevitably try and enact all of the National Guardsmen in order to fund his ridiculous war in Iran, which is unpopular as any war ever has been in the history of this country. Defend the Guard is a wonderful piece of legislation that we have been trying to get introduced in every state. If this bill passed in your state, it would keep the president from being able to take your guardsmen and women from your state to fight overseas unless Congress declared war. Not him, Congress. And that will not happen. So we need to push defend the guard legislation to protect the men and women who didn't sign up to fight overseas wars, who signed up here to defend our states, to help in natural disasters. They didn't sign up to go overseas and die for stupid wars, for regime changes, for the interests of foreign nations. They signed up because they wanted to stay here and help the people of this country. And the only way to keep them here is to help the Defend the Guard legislation in your state. So if you don't know of it, please look it up. Dan McKnight runs this and this organization. It's an amazing organization. I've spoke at his rally, the Rage Against the War Machine rally, at our national convention. I called out my own incumbent. I called out my governor. I am appalled that we treat our wars so callously anymore, and we need to defend the young men and women who have signed up for our National Guard. So please know
Okay,
that I'm vehemently opposed to all war.
I understand. And like I said, that's something I definitely support. But here it comes, because I know sometimes I get Trump supporters in my comments. They're not on today, but do you believe in the elimination of the United States military?
No, the United States military is imperative to the defense of our nation and the defense of our nation only. It is not
Yep,
meant to be used to fund the military industrial complex. And that is where we have gone off the rails. We are using it to fund the billionaires. They are making money off of our poor men and women who have signed up to defend our nation, and they are not fighting in the defense of our nation. And I oppose any regime change wars and any wars of aggression. Our military should only be used to defend our nation from aggressors.
I'm glad you said that, because I've tried to make that point several times, because I've had several candidates from across third parties say that. And I always get this question: well, you're against the military. We're not. My father was in the United States Air Force.
I had
He was,
family in the Navy. I've had plenty
yeah.
of family members. Tracy, I have had family members all the way back to the Revolutionary War in this country. I have had a lot of military members in my family, and I support our soldiers, and I support their right to not want to fight wars in the benefit of other nations. They should only be there to defend aggressors against our nation.
Yeah, and I want to get to this one because we were talking about this. So in 2032, everyone collecting Social Security will be getting a 22% cut to the benefits. What are Jamie's plans to keep Social Security solvent? And that question is from Nelson.
That's a great question, Nelson, and I'm sorry, but I don't have a good answer for you, because unfortunately, this was a Ponzi scheme. It was set up with nefarious intent, and it has been dipped into so much. And you're talking to somebody right now who is going to be a generation that gets, pardon me, Tracy, screwed more than any generation, and you're part of it, Tracy. It's not going to be solvent. It's not going to be. There is just nothing that's going to happen that's going to make this work. It is not a sustainable program. I am not the person to ask about the economic repercussions of what's going to happen. But I do know that we need to create a better plan, and we need to figure out a way to let people have their money back in their paychecks as soon as possible so they can invest their money on their own. Because had people been allowed to invest, they'd have so much more money in their retirement accounts. People need to be responsible for their own retirements. We cannot allow the government to be responsible for every aspect of our lives. And I am sorry, but I'm here to have hard conversations. And the fact is that everybody wants to tell you that there's solvency to Social Security, and I do not believe it, because I don't believe a damn thing the government tells me.
You meant a darn thing.
What?
Yeah, I said you meant a darn thing.
Yeah, I don't believe what the government says. I don't believe it's solvent. I believe firmly that I will have nothing for myself as I retire. I believe I will work until the day that I die. And I pray that the generation below me fights hard enough that they can stop this insanity and that they can scale back what Social Security is, because it has been a never-ending pool of money for the government to steal from, and I do not want to fund it anymore.
Understand. So, Nelson, that was the answer to your question. So, let's get back to the core of your campaign. So, are you a write-in candidate? Is that correct?
It is going to be a write-in candidacy from now, but let me tell you, I'm going to be full force in 28, and I will not be quiet. I know I've already scared our incumbent. He has had sent some undercover people to make phone calls to me to pretend they wanted to volunteer on my team, and he's kind of a shady dude. So I know that I definitely have made some waves here. I'm really proud of myself for the little bit of money that I had. I feel like I've made a difference. I think I'm going to have a team, an army of people going into 28 that are going to make a huge difference. And in the meantime, I am going to go out and do all the things that I can in my community to bring to light all of the troubles that third parties and independents have in gaining ballot access. And I'm hoping in the meantime that I'm able to bring about the notion of maybe getting refunds to third party and independent candidates for the primary process, because we are truly taxation without representation here in Pennsylvania. And I think it's high time that the state recognizes that.
Got it. So, oh, I just had my question. Okay, so final question, and then I'll do my gift to the campaign speech here at the end, because I said I'm going to do this every time a candidate. I notice they have a donate link on their website, so I'll do that here in just a moment. But if you could name 3 things that your campaign needs right now, not in 2028, but right now, what are the 3 things that you think that your campaign needs right now?
Volunteers, donations, and prayers.
Thank you for keeping that brief. Boy, I've had people go on. I'm like, okay, I said name 3. Don't name, they want to name 5 and 6. Thank you. Thank you for following the instructions. So I have said that when a candidate has a donation link on their website, I would go ahead and do this. For some reason, it's not bringing it up when I go. Oh, there it is. So this is the challenge for those that want to donate. We are asking that everybody watching this donate at least, at minimum, or no, maximum of $5. The reason why we're saying $5, everybody has $5 somewhere. You can save up for the $5. You could say, hey, I'm not gonna get that Starbucks coffee. Well, you shouldn't be buying Starbucks anyway because they fund genocide, but I'll get to that a whole second later. Maybe one day bring your lunch instead of going out. Donate that to Jamie's campaign. I know she could use it. I know merchandise costs money. So anybody watching this, please donate that $5. I am putting up the link now that I just found. There is the link is just her website /donate. I'm challenging for $5. Of course, if you have more than $5, you are welcome to make that donation. Quick announcement before I conclude this show. There will not be a Saturday show this Saturday, and that is because I am meeting up with my high school group. It's not a class reunion, but we're meeting up for bowling and brunch, and that's all day. So I will not do a Saturday show. I will do a Sunday show. Haven't decided we'll just talk about the news in question. Just remember, I'm gonna let Jamie have the last words. Well, no, before she does, I want everybody to remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And finally, like, share, comment, subscribe. It is up to you, ma'am, to conclude this show.
I don't have a lot to say, but libertarianism comes down to very simple principles that we all learned when we were in kindergarten. Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. Thank you so much for having me, Tracy.
You're welcome. I'm going to play our commercial, and that'll take us out. Thank you all very much.
Hey everyone, if you enjoy our content, consider supporting us on Patreon at Tracy Media Fans for exclusive perks and to help us keep creating.